Hello there, beautiful. How are you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. We've just had a trailer drop for the PS4 and Switch versions of Final Fantasy 1 to 6 Pixel Remaster, and I thought I'd take a little dive into the trailer and the website for Square Enix as well to have a little analysis on what new things we can expect from the Pixel Remasters. And I know I'm going to be buying it regardless of anything else, but there do seem to be some interesting changes that will make it exciting even for people who, like me, have played them a billion times before, or they could be the best versions of these games for new players to dive in on. So if you want to see more, then stay tuned and keep on watching. So we're going to dive right into the trailer here, and we're going to have a quick look at it and pause it at some little bits that I found interesting that weren't mentioned during the tweets and stuff that Square Enix have put out, as well as obviously looking at the features that are mentioned. So let's take a look and see what we've got here. I do still love that logo. I think it's cute. Also, they play main theme during this trailer, and you guys know that main theme makes me cry. I'm not gonna now, because I've heard it enough times, but I could. So, first things first, let's take a look at this pixel font that we've got going on here. So, you can see it's like tried to emulate sort of closer to the original games, or try to at least capture that kind of feel. It's definitely better than the font that we had previously. A lot of people didn't like the font that we had in the Pixel Remasters originally because they felt it was a bit soulless, I suppose, for want of a better word. But this version, I definitely think I would use this new pixel font. I do think it's better. Just so you know, it does say that all screenshots are taken from PS4 or Nintendo Switch version. So then this bit's quite nice as well. So they've reintroduced kind of like the renaming, like changing the name of the ability here for Cyan. And also, if you pause, FF6 has gotten quite a few updates here. I'm going to pause it here, just here. Because if you look on the right-hand side here, you can see that the credits have been re-added into the opening scene with Terra's theme as Terra, Biggs, and Wedge march into Nash. But there's also a little bit here on the bottom left here, that if you watch, that little sort of portal, that dark portal there, leads into the Death Gaze fight. So if you pause it right, that's a blink and you'll miss it kind of moment there. But Death Gaze is usually not visible on the world map during the World of Ruin section of Final Fantasy VI, so that's something that has been added specifically for this version of the game, and it does save a lot of time. I remember the last time I played FF6, I sat there for ages just trawling around the world map trying to find Death Gaze. So to see that there's improvements added that aren't necessarily spoken about here, it makes me wonder what else they've added into this game as well. This is really nice. You can switch between the original and new BGM. Now, more often than not, I would absolutely use the new BGMs because I think they're amazing. But I really love what they've done with so much of the music in the remasters of all 6 games, so I would always use it. But the option to use the original to get that retro feel is really nice. And then here you can see that we've got changes to things that you can do within the game. So there's boosters for XP, or you can turn encounters off, which, you know, if you've played Final Fantasy 1 to 3, encounters get aggravating pretty quickly because it's an old game and you end up running into things very frequently, particularly in FF2. So to be able to turn the encounters off, and there's various parameters there that you can sort of adapt. So this one's obviously like focused on Final Fantasy V with experience, skill, and ability points. But having those abilities available to people who perhaps haven't experienced the older games and want to kind of go through them quickly, or perhaps they're just looking for the story so that they can sort of compare it to newer entries in the franchise, you can increase the multipliers for things that you want. I would be interested to see how much shorter the game becomes when you increase those multipliers. I think it'd be a really interesting experiment to play through the game with none of them, and then play through it again with the multipliers added and see how much faster you can play through the game with them. So like a button to instantly like remove items and stuff, a pause menu there so that you can return to title screen. But it's still lovely just to see like what's been done with the various Final Fantasy games, and just something like these quality of life changes absolutely make a huge difference. So that's the logos for all 6. I actually really like the way they've kind of slid into each other there. I think that's really cute. But we also have a release date when it comes to these games, which is incredible. I'm super excited for April 19th. And quite interesting as well, they actually have a time listed for like the game's releases. So 4 p.m. BST, April 19th, I will be there and I will be playing FF1 again, because Lord knows I haven't played those games enough. And also, I'm waiting to see what trophy support looks like for these games. I'm waiting to see, like, if I can platinum them all individually. I really hope that they are individual and they're not all bundled into one. But if Steam achievements are anything to go by, they shouldn't be. And it means that, interestingly, the only game that you cannot play on the PS4, numbered 1 all the way to 15, excluding 11, is 13. Like, 13 is playable on PS3, but it's the only game, numbered game, that is now not available on PS4/5. So I'm kind of hoping to see if an FF13 remastered collection comes around, something that includes maybe FF13 2, Lightning Returns. Who knows, but it would be brilliant just to have, like, the ultimate Final Fantasy machines going around, and, you know, Steam Deck's doing a pretty good job of that, so it'd be nice to see PlayStation and Switch also kind of pick up the pace on that too. Before we continue, a quick shout out to my Patreon members who support this channel, and I appreciate every day. And I always give a shout out to one of my patrons every time I release a video so that I can thank each and every one of you who does so individually. And today that person's going to be Mark, who has been a long-time supporter of mine. A massive thank you goes out to you. And Mark has Arden on his title card. I hand make all of the title cards for every tier of my Patreon. So if it's something that you're interested in, as well as a ton of other benefits that you won't receive anywhere else on YouTube or anything like that, then perhaps you'd like to consider clicking on the link in the description box below for that too. So thank you very much in advance if you decide to do so. So I did also want to take a look at Square Enix's website here, because there's more details that are coming around from just the website, so I thought I'd have a look at that. Final Fantasy 1-6 arrive on console on April 19th, 2023, along with some awesome features, including more music and font options. Read all the details here. So you have all the logos there, which is lovely. Not only that, but the console releases features that let you take these already incredible games to new heights. Read on and we'll tell you all about them. This image right here, like the FF1 image, genuinely makes me a little bit emotional. There's just something about that picture. Like, I've literally painted, I've literally just grabbed it, just thinking about it, but I have painted this image numerous times. I've done them as giveaways in the past. I just love this picture, and it just does things to me. So, originally released on PC and mobile in 2022, the first 6 Final Fantasy games have been updated with beautiful new 2D pixel graphics. Now, the thing that I will say here is that there's no additions. You would think if they were going to add the additions from, say, like the advanced versions or anything like that, they would have gone into detail with that, but they haven't. So I'm assuming that this is still very much the original versions of the games from the Super Nintendo or NES, depending on which ones you're playing. They're still not going to have, say, like the Cannoneer job from FF5 or anything like that. I also will say, like, I love the font. I do like it, but is it me, or like on this picture here, does it look a little bit off-center? I think it's obviously to line up with the way that the naming, like where Ultros's name is on that picture, it just looks a little bit wonky, but it's really minor, like really, really minor. That's just the first thing that I noticed. I definitely do like this font, particularly the numbering with this particular font as opposed to the previous ones. So the PS4 and Switch versions of these games have some awesome features that make them even more enjoyable. So you can change the soundtracks. Pixel Remaster series features utterly superb new orchestral arrangements of FF1-6's soundtracks. However, we know some of you may want to recreate the original experience of playing these games, so you'll be able to switch between the original and rearranged soundtracks. I do think that that's a really cool feature. Like, as I said while we were watching the trailer, I think it's really nice to be able to swap them around. It's not something I plan on doing, because if I wanted to play the originals with the original soundtracks, I'd just play the original versions. But I think it's a really nice option. Change fonts. So you have the option of the font from the Steam and Android version, or iOS Android versions. I can't imagine many people are going to use that. They're probably just going to use the new pixelated one, because it is just way nicer. Turn off random encounters. Sometimes you just want to explore in peace, so a feature in the Pixel Remaster games lets you turn off random encounters completely, which means you can roam the world without being harassed. However, it also means you won't get stronger, so be careful how you use it. I mean, if you've played a lot of these older games, you'll know that being able to turn off random encounters on the fly will just make things a lot more streamlined in general. Not being able to gain XP from certain enemies, not as big a deal as you might think. However, like, certainly in, say, FF2, where you need to kind of fight things in order to gain stats rather than levels, something you may want to consider. But speaking of getting stronger, as it says here, if you want to speed things up a bit, boost features let you adjust the experience gained by up to 4 times, as well as other parameters such as ABP in FF5, GIL, stuff like that. Perfect if you want an easier run through the games. I think that all of these options make FF1 to 6 way more accessible than they have ever been before. There are definitely arguments to be had as to whether the Pixel Remasters are the best versions of each Final Fantasy, especially because there are additions to the advanced versions, the PSP versions, things like that. And the 3D remakes of FF3 and 4 are obviously completely different games. But I do think that if a person were to ask me, which Final Fantasy should I get into? I want to try one of the earlier ones, but I've never done it. I will always lead them to the Pixel Remasters because I think they are by far the most accessible versions of those games to date. So what games are part of Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster series? This is all stuff that will have been covered from when they were originally released on the PC versions, but perhaps some people may not know. So you have Final Fantasy 1 through to 6. So Warrior of Light's game, Firian's game, Onion Knight's game, Kain and Cecil's game, Bartz's game, and Terra and Celis' game, Final Fantasy VI. Now, I will always recommend that FF6 is the first one that people should go for if they're looking for story. My favourite of them all is actually Final Fantasy V, and is arguably my favourite Final Fantasy out of literally all of them, just because it is the most pure game over all of the others. Like, the story isn't quite as in-depth as FF4 or 6, but I do think that it has the most pure version of the job system. If you want just a pure unadulterated game, I will always recommend FF5. But for people who, by and large, go for the story, FF6 is the one to go for. But this last bit here we will have a look at here. So how do you get the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster series? All 6 games will be available to buy digitally on PS4 and Nintendo Switch. Each title can be bought individually or as a complete series in the FF1 to 6 bundle, which again leads me to believe that trophies, achievements, etc. on PlayStation will be individual rather than bundled in as one thing, because sometimes when they do collections of games, they'll do a singular platinum for all of them, whereas this looks like, because you can buy them individually, they'll be separate. The Switch version is available to pre-order now. Purchase the game by May 25th to receive 2 themed wallpapers for each individual game. Buy the complete series in the FF1 to 6 bundle to get all 12 themed wallpapers. The PS4 version will be available to purchase at a later date. However, those of you who buy the games digitally will get a theme and an avatar for each title purchased. That's quite nice. Like, you know, it's little additions like that do sweeten the deal a little bit. Now, obviously, there are physical versions of Pixel Remaster, but they went out for pre-order a while back and they sold out within like 10 minutes. I'm very lucky in that I did manage to pre-order one, and they were very expensive. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like there's any mention of more of the physical versions being released. So whether they decide to release more over at Square, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, there's been a quick look at the trailer for Pixel Remasters on PS4 and Switch. I'm actually really excited about these, even though I've already played all 6 of these games to complete just oblivion many times. I'm happy to just play them again because Final Fantasy 1 to 6 are amazing. And there's a lot coming up on Twitch as well. If you'd like to come and follow me on Twitch, I'll be playing all of these again. I've just got to finish Final Fantasy 15 and then the count up is complete, which means I can then start afresh, start bringing it over to YouTube more efficiently and stuff like that, as well as this little gem that's going to be coming out fairly soon as well. Very much looking forward to that. So if you want all the Final Fantasy love, then perhaps consider joining in my Discord community as well as coming and chatting to me about it. And honestly, I love this franchise so much. Like, Final Fantasy 1 to 6 gives me so much joy, and I will happily play through them all again. Let me know in the comments below which of the 6 Pixel Remasters you'll be playing first, and until next time, I shall love you and leave you with that. So thank you very much for tuning in, beautiful, and I will see you next time. Have a great day.